Hi again, Eagles fans. David Wilson here. We're in the Gridiron Club room at the Troop Center on the Ashland University campus. It's time for a little midsummer update on Eagles football. I'm joined by head coach Doug Geiser. And Coach, we appreciate the time today. And I guess let's just start by talking about maybe what's going on in this building at this time of the year in mid-July and how you guys are prepping for upcoming camp.
Well, being most literal right now, there's actually cleaning going on in the building right now. They got a big group of maintenance people sprucing up the Troop Center. And it's kind of probably a good time to do it because most of the coaches are away at this point. This month, the coaches that are going to take a vacation, they do that. They don't need to be in the office. They just know when we get back the last week of July that they need to have their stuff done and ready to go for camp at that point in time. So our players are in volunteer workouts. Our strength coaches, Corey Mason and Aaron Barnhart, are working out guys that would come back to campus 4 days a week, lifting, running, conditioning, agility, power stuff, and trying to get them in good enough shape for a training camp kicking off on August 10th.
Coach, safe to say the preparation for a new season really never stops once the old one ends, correct?
That's right. I mean, it's the old adage about training camp nowadays, and that's kind of where you get in shape, is almost a misnomer at this point. It's we expect the players to come into training camp in some semblance of shape. There'll be an acclimation to working in pads and that sort of thing, but this year especially, we've got 10 days of training camp. We don't have a lot of time to waste, so they need to come in shape, and so we can practice at a certain tempo and get the stuff done we need to prepare for IUP.
Coach, last year a 9-win season, your second straight as head coach. You were the coach of the year, GMAC championship, a playoff win, one that we'll never forget. And so all of those things equaled a fantastic season, and yet sort of a heartbreaking end there in Cal, PA on a frigid day in the second round of the playoffs. So I don't mean to say that would have spoiled the memory of a great season, but did that serve as fuel for you and the staff and players just in terms of the way you're prepping for 2025?
Yeah, in a lot of ways it did. At that point of year, believe it or not, I didn't get a chance to really dissect that game until Christmas, because literally after we got knocked out of the playoffs, I'm in the bus and we're driving back to Ashland. I'm prepping for the official visit we had scheduled for that week. I was hoping we're going to have to cancel it, working up to it, but we didn't, so we're going to keep it on. And so my mind immediately went to recruiting at that point, trying to get to the 2025 class. And so when I did look at it during Christmas, yeah, there was a lot of thoughts of missed opportunity. And, no discredit to Coach Dunn and Cal PA. They're a tremendous team, and they won the game. Give them credit for that. But we had some missed opportunities in that game, and it was very, very close to us playing in the third week of the playoffs against a Slippery Rock team. And, so what I sensed, though, from that coming back is there is a hunger through the off-season workouts. As you know, we've been very, very young the last 2 years, and we're still actually young this year, but we got a lot of experience back. And I've seen a kind of a redoubled efforts, focus to want to get back and go beyond, and realizing how close we were. You're 3 weeks from our ultimate goal. And so the thing I've cautioned our guys about is this, though, is if I sense any bit of complacency or entitlement or thinking that we're gifted to get back to that situation again, I'm going to nip it in the bud, because if anything, the path becomes a little bit harder at this point. We have a little bit of idea what it takes, but, being Ashland, we always have a target on our back. And we know that, and the kids know that when they come here. And but the perspective you need to take and what we preach is you always want to be the hunter, not the hunted. And we have our goals and what we're hoping to achieve in mind. And so let's stay the hunter and stay hungry, and then just kind of go out and try to accept that challenge and move beyond.
Doug, when you talk about returning personnel, and we'll get into that a little more specifically in a few minutes, but one thing that is very consistent is your coaching staff. Consistency reigns year after year here at Ashland. Of course, You're going into your 22nd year here, third as head coach, but the staff around you has equally impressive tenures. I know you lost Evan Berbari, the wide receivers coach. He went back to his alma mater to serve on the staff of Nate Moore at Massillon, Washington. But your new wide receivers coach is a familiar name in Garrett Turnbull, who caught a lot of passes in an Eagles uniform. But just a word about your coaching staff and how it's shaping up for this season.
You're right to make a note about the consistency, and I think that is a strength here. Consistency not only in coaches but in system, and also players who recruit to that system. And you don't see that a lot in Division II. And just looking the other day, just talking to myself, I am the fourth coach, I believe, in 66 or 67 years, head coach. And that's kind of unheard of in Division II, but it speaks to the tradition, speaks to the consistency, speaks to the fact that this is a very special place. And so, yeah, that's a great place to start. That's a great place to start. And even a little thing like recruiting areas. You get guys in the same recruiting areas multiple years. You build a relationship with the coaches in their area, so they feel comfortable being real with you, and they might even reach out to you, which has happened to us here in the off season when guys become available that you might not have been aware of, and so they'll seek you out because they trust the consistency, they trust that steadiness here at Ashland University. They know their kids are going to get treated right and be able to play at a high level.
Doug, that has to help you in terms of just knowing that you can delegate to guys that you have coached with for years and years, and you know that you're on the same page and they've got your back and vice versa.
Yeah, and even a little thing there, you don't have to spend a lot of time in meetings. And there's obviously going to be some preparation meetings and whatnot in game planning, but you don't have to spend an over amount trying to make sure everybody's on the same page. Everybody gets it because they've been in the same system for a number of years, whether it's as a player or as a coach. The other guy you didn't mention, two guys actually you didn't mention as far as adding to the staff here, are two of our alums as graduate assistants this year. Evan Kirkpatrick takes over Garrett Turnbull, who's now our receivers coach. And then we recently hired Chris Julian to be our defensive graduate assistant. So once again, two more guys you're adding to the staff. So even though they're new, they're not, because they've both been players in the system for 4 and 5 years. They know the expectations. They know what works here. They know how to sell it. They believe in it. And that's pretty powerful.
Season opener is coming up on September the 4th against IUP, then to Indianapolis for week 2. So we kind of delve into the schedule here. It's a daunting schedule because 4 of your first 5 games are on the road. Your home schedule is sort of backloaded on the second half of the season, but it's going to be a difficult season to navigate. They all are, but certainly at the beginning it's going to be a little different.
Yeah, the one constant is going to be we're opening with 2 playoff teams, perennial playoff teams, and the series with IUP has 2 more years. Indianapolis, obviously, the class of the GLVC for a number of years, so we'll get tested. We always play up. We want to play up, find out exactly who we are, and after week 2 this year, there'll be no delusions at all. We'll know the good, we'll know the bad, and we'll be able to correct that from there. And as you said, 4 of the first 5 on the road. We're actually playing in 5 different states in the first 5 weeks, and 6 of the first 8 on the road. Now the last 3 are at home, against some worthy opponents as well. So the biggest thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is how hard it is to win on the road in college football. And so hopefully we'll be able to delve into the maturity the guys have earned and kind of gone through the last couple of years as we prep and go on the road into an opposing team's stadium and hopefully get a chance to get a win. So it takes a little bit of mental toughness, a lot of mental toughness in that case right there. And it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge that we're aware of, and coaching to, and making the players aware of, and preparing for as well.
Doug, the series with IUP has just been a very difficult one for AU because they've all been such close games, some right down to the wire. Will this be the year that AU gets over the hump against the Crimson Hawks?
That's the hope. A lot of credit to Paul Tortorello and his IUP players and his staff, and they play a very sound brand of football. They don't beat themselves. And as you mentioned, up until last year, every single game had come down to a touchdown or less. And at the end, they made a play to win it, and we did not. So that's part of playing up, and your weaknesses will get exposed. We just hope that we can cover them up a little bit, and hopefully give them a good enough battle and maybe get into that W column this year.
Doug, we could probably invest 2 to 3 hours here to go through the entire roster, but let's hit on some high points, talk a little personnel. It's early, it's mid-July as we're recording this interview, so a lot of things can change leading up to training camp and throughout training camp. But let's start offensively. I hate to be that guy, but let's talk quarterback first. That's on everybody's mind with the departure of Trevor Bazinski, who had a great 2-year run here at AU at the quarterback position. Cam Blair was number 1 in the spring game. Now I think going into fall, that's probably still his spot. But give me your thoughts on the quarterback situation now.
Well, you can't call him number 1 going into the spring game. They're both teams were drafted purple and gold, so he was the starting quarterback for the gold team, I believe, and Drew Novak was for the purple team. So we still have not named a starter, and the competition is probably come down to those two at that point, although it'll still be open in training camp, and we'll let them battle it out and see which one works best for the Eagles. But I like both options. You know, Cam is obviously somebody who has waited his turn, been patient, had a big role for us last year as our scan punter, and converted a lot of key first downs in key games, and has the respect of his teammates, and has been a good soldier all the way through. Has started some games in his career. But you got Drew Novak nipping at his heels, and Drew's got a very accomplished resume as well. And his improvement from day one to now has been very, very tremendous. And so I'm excited. I know that teammates are excited to see which guy wants to grab the bull by the horns. But they're definitely having to live up to a high standard there with Trevor Bazinski, and obviously Austin Brenner before him, and Tarnowski and all those guys. So it's been a very elite position for the Eagles through the years, and we'll see which guy steps up to the plate this year.
You mentioned their high school resumes. Cam Blair, of course, one of the all-time greats in Stark County, over 9,000 passing yards in his career.
Yeah.
Most people don't know Drew Novak, who has not seen any action for AU since coming to campus, but this young man, 3rd all-time in OHSAA career passing yards, over 14,000 at Western Brown. Incredible numbers.
Yeah. The thing that I like about both guys, I recruited Cam when I was an assistant, and obviously was involved with Drew as the head coach, is they both changed the level of expectation and success at their school. And because that position is so much more than just the physical. You go with Cam Blair at Sandy Valley. I believe he still is the all-time leading passer in Stark County history, I believe. He took a school that had never really been to the playoffs. As a 4-year starter, they now expect to go to the playoffs every year, even with him being gone for a handful of years. And that's pretty powerful to change the trajectory of success of a program. And you look at somebody like Drew Novak, similar story. And if I remember right, I think Coach Stacy has told me he led the country in passing as a junior, not just the state, the country in passing as a junior. So, both very, very accomplished, both winners, and both know how to raise the level of their team's performance. And that's what's exciting for me, is having a choice between those two guys.
All right, as far as protecting your quarterback, this may be one of the most positive things going into the 2025 season, as the number of returners that you have on the offensive line, of course, anchored by center Ethan Enders, but so many talented guys that have developed. We know the game is decided in the trenches, Coach, and you've got some guys up there that can really help out.
We have our top 9 guys back on the offensive line, and anchored, yes, you mentioned Ethan Enders, who's a 3-year starter and 3-year all-conference player, and also Nick Walker at left tackle is a 3-year starter and 3-year all-conference performer. So, it's a good place to start with those guys right there. Having Justin Henry and Caden Riddle back at the guard positions. They both, being anchored, playing alongside of Ethan and Nick there has been good. And then, Nico Trasick did a tremendous job last year, stepping in as a true freshman, which is kind of unheard of at the college football level. It doesn't happen very often. But it was neat to have them all together in spring practice, working together as well. Last year, going into the season, of the 5 guys that started, only 2 were going through spring practice. With Ethan and Justin coming off injury, obviously Nico was finishing high school. And then you look behind them, you have the next group of guys that are pushing them at this point as well. Hunter Kaleo has given us some great minutes through the years, okay? You look at guys like Jacob McCabe. We wanted to find a spot for him on the field last year, and so he played some tight end for us and did a great job with that through the year. And you got young guys that would have redshirted, and Andrew Bowden and Andrew Heisler. You got some newcomers coming in, Mitchell George and Trevor Whitney. So you got guys there that are hungry, have ability, and the last couple of years, probably more than any other position on the team, we've had to mix and match and play young because of injury and because of attrition. Now it's nice to be able to at least have some guys that have played a lot of college football. And as you said, my background as an offensive line coach, we're going to go as that group goes. And so there's the expectation level has really been increased, but I know Coach Cordell's done a tremendous job molding that group, and he's up for the challenge.
All right, Doug, let's move on to running backs and receivers. When you talk about the tailback position, that's another one that is just riddled with great tradition here at Ashland University. And your running back room this year is going to be pretty talented, especially when you think about returners like Lando Camara, Ty Stevenson, and now you've added Wiltrell Hartnett to the mix as a transfer from Southern Illinois. We saw him in the spring game, was just running over people, and you could just sort of project how that might look on a Saturday afternoon here at Jack Miller Stadium. I know you're excited about those guys.
Absolutely, because that's always going to be. We're going to play multiple tailbacks. I mean, there's always a physical component to what we do on the offensive side of the ball, and having our top two tailbacks from last year back with Lando Camara and Ty Stevenson. It's a great place to start. They both, you could see them raise the level of their game throughout the year as they gain confidence in their ability. First time having expanded role in the offense, and then also building that relationship with the offensive line. And I know a lot of times people look past that, but your best running teams, the running backs are in sync with the guys up front. And so it just takes time. You can't rush that. It takes times and reps to do that. By the end of the year, you can start to see that. Especially you went in the playoffs, and they did a nice job with it. And then, being able to add a player of Wiltrell Hartson's caliber is tremendous. I had recruited him, and we had offered him out of high school, and took a varied path there. But when he decided that he was going to leave Southern Illinois, he reached out to us, and we were able to make it work. And obviously, his talent coming from Ashland High School. It also forced the other guys to raise their level, and it was a neat dynamic to see because there's nothing like competition. And we'll play all three guys. They'll all have a role, and hopefully be very, very productive. And oh, by the way, we added a freshman coming in who's very talented too from Benedictine, Chris Maloney. And so, if guys ever want to catch their breath or take a play off, they might find themselves on the bench because that guy behind them is going to be nipping at their heels. So it's a great situation to be in as a coach, that there's a lot of talent in that room. Now it's just a matter of letting them battle it out, and Ashland will be the victor because of it.
The receiving core, again, you bring back a number of guys who caught passes. The guy I'm interested in is Jamari Kroom and his continued development. We saw Luke Brenner catch a touchdown pass in the last game of the season at Cal PA. You've got a lot of guys to plug in there. Isaiah Ramsey is another returner who's a developing talent out of Shelby. But give me some idea of your outlook on the receiving core at this point.
Well, the great first place to start is having Jen Joseph back.
Sure.
He was our best going into last season, and that was a big blow when he went down in the third quarter against IUP. And so he's back healthy. He's had a tremendous offseason. Really challenged him to step up in a leadership capacity, and he's done that. And so he's getting on the same page with Drew and with Cam, and so it's neat to see. It's also helped Jamari. It's also helped Jamari too. Jamari took a step forward last year, and he needs to take another step. Needs to be a guy for us. And you mentioned some other guys in that room. From Isaiah Ramsey to Luke Brenner. They've had a great offseason. Now it's their time. They've played a little bit part last year, but they need to step up and be the guys that we thought we recruited. And I think they will. We got a talented group of freshmen coming in as well. And so I like the playmaking ability we have in that room.
Now, you've talked a lot about the way you and Tom Stacy, the offensive coordinator, you try to strike that balance of run and pass. But I always found it interesting that you're quick to point out being balanced isn't necessarily the exact same number of plays running and passing. It's just being able to go to either or in different situations. The dynamic there of how you guys call the plays, tell us how that works. Does it depend more on just how the game is going, the personnel on the other side of the ball? What's foremost in your minds?
All the above of what you said there. And you're right. It's really the threat of run and pass every play is what it is. And some days that threat might be 400 yards passing and 100 yards rushing. Sometimes it might be flipped with that. But what kind of predicts that first and foremost is what do our players do best? And putting them in a situation where you get the ball to our athletes in space. The other part of it too is you're going to study the opponents and what are they giving you in those scenarios. What are they giving you versus certain personnel sets, certain formations? Can you predict it? Can you dictate? And so you throw in things in also like maybe mixing up your tempo as well. It's a nice little ball you look at. But probably the two most important things are what do we do best, and what is the opponent giving us, and taking advantage of those two things. That's probably the most important thing you look at when you were putting together an offensive game plan and looking to execute it and call those plays during the game.
Now, wrapping up the offensive side of the ball, Doug, tight ends, fullbacks, both play extremely important roles in your offense. Obviously, we've seen the tight end used not just as a blocker over the years here at Ashland under Lee Owens and now yourself, but catching big, important, timely touchdown passes. And of course, you guys aren't afraid to throw to the fullback and let him run the ball on short yardage situations. And you've got some good ones in both positions.
Got everybody in the room is back. And if you want to start with the fullback position, and we're old school enough, we have fullbacks, and they're different than tight ends. Colin Remanowski has done a tremendous job in his first 2 years and was a big factor in our run and pass game last year. And then every once in a while, we'll throw him a little bit of sugar and give him the ball in the run game as well. And then the tight end group, you got two returners there that really excited about. Brock Henney, that was actually a big loss for us during the year when he was out for half a season, and the guys did a nice job rallying for it. But having him back for the whole year as a run blocking and a pass catching threat, and then also John Merrimee, really excited about what he can bring to the game as well. So good place to start with those three guys right there, and they're kind of the queen on the chessboard. They can do a lot of different things, and not everybody has them. So you can do a lot of dictating, based on which of those guys are on the field.
When you guys show over a period of years that you utilize the tight ends, you utilize the fullbacks, does that sort of come home to roost in recruiting, where you guys get contacted sometimes, or you just have a good connection with potential fullbacks and tight ends? They know they want to play in that kind of an offense?
Absolutely. And it helps us, too, having alums in coaching positions. Like, for example, we signed a fullback from the Mogador area, Field High School. And Drexel's position coach was Austin Williams, a great fullback here for AU. And then this past year, we were able to sign two really good tight ends, one from the Grand Rapids area, Rockford High School, Blake Lindsley, but also from Avon, Ty Beerbaum. And we weren't looking to take two scholarship tight ends, but they both liked AU. They wanted to come here. And it's like, you know what? You got good players wanting to come here. You find a place for them. And we're excited for all three of their futures with that. And you are very, very, very perceptive with that. It helps when people realize how we use them. And hey, if they'll tell their kids, hey, you wouldn't be used right as a tight end. You go there because you're going to get exposure to a lot of different aspects of it and potentially a possibility of playing at the next level.
All right, moving on to the defensive side of the ball. Doug, a group led by Tim Rose and all of your defensive assistant coaches, some of the best in the business, hold the coaching positions in the defensive room. But let's start with the defensive line. I'm looking so forward to the return of Michael Shemick, who just continues to make play after play.
Yeah, I am too. I'm glad we got Mike for another year. I'm one of the best in the league, I think, and I'm biased, obviously, but he's had a tremendous career up to this point, and he'll be counted to be the leader of that group up front. We did take a hit inside, graduation-wise, at defensive tackle. Graduated 3 of our top 4 guys. Guys that played a lot of football: Colin Strong, Christian Garish, Mason Graney. But we got some young guys that have been in college football for a little bit, and we feel good about. Just they had to kind of wait their time behind those good players. So we'll be counting on names like a Zane Swackhammer and a Damian Bloomfield, a Slade McClaskey, Drew Holman, guys like that it's now their turn, and they're feverishly working to uphold that tradition that's been established up front. Going back even to the days of Bill Royce, many, many moons ago. And then at defensive end, you're looking at guys like a senior, like a Russell Twining. You're looking at Kendrick Mensah, guys like that we're expecting to step up and be that next group. Brendan Hermensky's in that group too. So we got a lot of candidates. Not as much playing time and experience as we've had in the last couple of years, but it's a good group to draw from.
Kendrick Mensah is a huge human being, and he kind of came out of nowhere last year, had sacks in back-to-back games, and left us saying, hey, who is this guy? But we were glad to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy, when I was an assistant, I recruited him from a great program down in Columbus, Pickerington Central. Jay Sherritt was his coach at that time. He was actually high school teammates with Lando Camara, and has come in and hasn't done anything but work. He works his tail off, and he was defensive MVP of the spring game. Remember last year, kind of his coming out party, and his role kept increasing last year as he was learning behind Mike Shimmick and Jeff Barnett at that time. And he's taken another step forward here in the offseason. I'm excited to see what his next level is.
All right, moving on to linebacker. Give us an update on Jack Talkington. That was a big loss for you last year, Coach. He made some great plays early on. Ended up with a knee injury, missed the rest of the season. I know he's been rehabbing, and will he be ready to go for training camp?
Jack Talkington's ready as we speak right now. He's been chomping at the bit. He was even trying to jump in some of the spring practice stuff, and they had to kind of put the reins on him and say, you're not cleared yet. But he's moving around as good or better than what he was. And I like the two guys we have to start with, and that's Ben Holzoffel and Jack Talkington. Once again, Stark County roots, and I said I'm biased to recruited both of them. I think they're tremendous football players, and having a coach like Tim Rose being their mentor can only enhance their ability. If there was a silver lining last year with, remember Ben got banged up too in the playoffs with the plantar fascia, is we had two young guys stepped up and really showed us they can play too, and have earned some playing time. Braden Smith, who's a legacy, his dad Ray played here as a defensive lineman, and then also Sam Wakula. When Jack went down, Sam became the starting backer, and he didn't miss a start after that. He played every single snap after that and got valuable experience and kind of confirmed what we saw in recruiting. So we're excited to have that group back, a lot of depth.
Sam Wakula filling in for Talkington was just seamless. And, I mean, that could have been a devastating blow for your defensive unit. But I felt, just from an observer standpoint, that the way he stepped in was maybe a key to a number of those wins.
I think it was too, and good pedigree. Dad was a player at Buffalo in the MAC, and he comes from a tremendous high school program in Michigan, Warren De La Salle. Traditional, one of the best in the state, multi-time state champion. So having a chance to add him as a freshman, he was not in awe of the situation when we asked him to play more. And he had played in specials up to that point. And another guy I'd mentioned that mix too is Zach Hines. Zach Hines keeps increasing his role. He came in as a special teams guy, and he was a special teams demon last year, and gave us depth in the linebacker room. And so, you got 5 guys there who've played a lot of football and a lot of good football. And so, just like that tailback room, it keeps the pedal to the metal as far as competition. You better play. You get your opportunity. You better show. You better pop, or else we got a guy that can replace you.
Secondary, headed up by Donzale Ashley at the cornerbacks, and that's another position. You lost some guys who had made incredible contributions to AU football. Devin Prude comes to mind. But E.J. Tia coming back, a guy that had an interception for you at Thomas More, Marquise Scott, is developing talent. Who are some other guys, and what's your assessment of the secondary?
We're excited for the secondary, and Donzale coaches the corners, and Don Morsini coaches our safeties. And so, we got hit by graduation there a little bit. One guy who played that overhang position for us, a nickel backer, Isaiah Clark, played the best football of his career, and he had a great career here for us. Devin Prude, you mentioned at corner. Miles Martin, 2 picks at Thomas More. That was a big thing for us there. And Bobby Young at free safety. So we got hit by that. But we got guys coming back at corner. You got guys, Jelon Jackson, who started a number of games for us, and you also got Isaac Brooks, who's played a lot of football through the years. We've got a couple of young guys bucking for time, challenging those guys, Damian Johnson and DeLon Moss. So a good place to start in that room right there. You mentioned E.J. Tia at safety, and E.J. has had a great first 2 years, and the challenge now, I said, hey, you need to become an all-league player plus. That's what your talent shows us, and oh, by the way, I want you to become the leader of that group back there. Okay, Riley Weiss is back as he started a number of games for us as well. So good place to start there. We've added a couple of guys, a couple of older guys to help bridge the gap. Izzy Vasquez from Portland State, and is actually from Donzel Ashley's high school. He was a 2-year starter out there, and he'll be playing in the back end. And then we were fortunate to add a player from our league, grad transfer, DJ Butler from Ohio Dominican. And so both those guys will be in the mix as well. We got young guys, Nick Sailors, who was a special teams warrior last year, is going to be in the mix, Malik Kamara. So we got a number of guys there that we feel pretty good about, and just a matter of some guys will step into increased roles they haven't had in the past, and we'll have a lot of competition there. But I know I trust in Donzel, and I trust in Dom, and I expect those guys to play at a high level.
And we'd be remiss not to at least touch on special teams. And, of course, special teams came into focus in the Charleston game when A.J. Rhodes kicked he kicked 2 field goals in that game. No one remembers the first one, but the second one was the walk-off, and maybe one of the best finishes in Ashland University football history. But it's not just the kicking game, but it's an entire unit in terms of the returners as well. And oftentimes, Doug, that can tip a football game.
And we put a lot of emphasis on the kicking game here. Our mantra is to change the game. Whether it's a coverage unit, whether it's a scoring unit, whatever the case might be, and that'll be a loss. A.J. Rhodes was a 3-time all-conference player for us, and one of the all-time leaders in scoring in AU history. Just happens to be from my alma mater, so I got a special place in my heart for A.J. But we're looking at Manaki Watanabe has won the position in the spring, and we're excited for what he can do, and challenge him to play at that same level A.J. did. At punter, you got Jaden Cook back in our spread punt package, and he's done some really good things for us through the years. And for the first time in a couple of years, we got our long snapper back. That's a nice source of comfort for me. Even though I'll always let Noel remember he started out his career that very first snap. That was not a good result against IUP, but he rallied the cause, and he finished the year strong. And we look at that position between him and Luke White to be a very strong source of strength for us, throughout the year.
Coach, just finishing up with a few items. Obviously, the GMAC is always first and foremost. You want to win the GMAC. It's always a tough gauntlet to go through. Some great teams, great competition. I assume this year will be no different in terms of that's what you tell the players that you want to focus on.
Absolutely. That's because nothing happens if you don't win the conference, especially now that the NCAA Division II has gone to an AQ or automatic qualifier. That had not been the case before. So usually the conference champion would go, but now it's guaranteed, which is nice. So, but we got to put ourselves in a position where we're challenging for that. And you look at it, the teams in the league, you always start with the 2 rivals. The first one is the traveling trophy with us in Hillsdale, second longest series in our school's history. And, so that week 3 coming off of IUP in Indianapolis, we've got Hillsdale at home here. And I know Nate Schreffler will have that group all fired up to get that trophy back. It's a source of pride for both of us. And, it's one of those rivalry games. It's like brothers fighting against each other. And you'll go at it as hard as you can, and it'll be very, very heated. But at the end of the game, you're locking arms, and we're saying prayer together on our logo at the end of the game. So it's a neat dynamic and something you can only see in college football, something like that. And then obviously the other rival is the Battle for Ohio, and that's us in Findlay. That's our oldest series of a rival in football. And we're fortunate to get the win last year. Extreme circumstances with 2 lightning delays. I think we started at noon and we finished somewhere around 5 or 5:30, but very heated, and that game always is. That's a proverbial throw the records out the window. You got two teams that they're just going to scrap with each other, and we've had two pretty exciting games the last 2 years. So looking forward to that next one this year.
One of the greatest things maybe not many people know, when Finley played here a couple of years ago, AU won in 4 overtimes. Mm-hmm. You were quoted before the game saying, "I don't care if it takes 4 overtimes. We're going to beat the Oilers today."
Well, I can say this. It was in the pregame talk, and and the point I was trying to make is you have to play as long as you need to play to win the game. So I said whether it takes a quarter or 2 quarters or 4 quarters or 4 overtimes, that's the effort. That's how you need to be locked in. And I had forgot I had said that until the Sunday the players brought it up. I'm like, oh, I guess I did. Okay, yeah, I was prescient. I remember that. So just happenstance, but that's one of the most fun, and it was one of the greatest games I've been a part of. So you can always count on the fact Finley's going to be a good team, and Corey will get his team ready to play, and that'll be a big challenge. We're playing here in Week 10 with them, but the other teams in League 2 are continue to improve. I mean, Tiffin's at a high level. They've been in the playoffs recently. Ohio Dominicans won the league. So you start with those teams right there, and then you have teams that have shown great improvement. From Thomas More to Walsh, Lake Erie under David Price. Ty Young down at Kentucky Wesleyan always play us tough. So it's a meat grinder, and there are no gimmies in that schedule. So that's the challenge, especially when you put in the road component to that first part of it. So it'll be the league this year, and defending that crown will be a challenge for us.
Now, Doug, you mentioned the NCAA Division II committee has ended the earned access approach. It'll still be 4 super regions.
Yep.
Top 8 in each will go to the playoffs, so there'll be 32 total playoff teams rather than the previous 28. Automatic qualifiers for conference champions. So not to get the cart before the horse, but if you are fortunate enough to get into that field, AU now is in Region 3 as opposed to Region 1, and you're in with some different teams now, including the GLIAC, the GLVC. It's going to be a little different, and the competition pretty stiff.
Yeah, it's really before we went to the GMAC, we were in Super Region 3 in the GLIAC, and so this year Super Region 3 is the GLIAC, the GLVC, which is Indianapolis, but also the Northern Sun. So you're talking Minnesota State, you're talking Minnesota Duluth. And that's the region we were in before when we first came here 20 years ago. The good thing now, the last time we were in Super Region 3, you also had the Arkansas Conference, and you had the MIAA. They have now left, and they're elsewhere. So still a meat grinder, though. And you got to figure that to get out of Super Region 3, you're playing probably Grand Valley and or Ferris or Indianapolis. Not to mention the other teams in the GLIAC there too. So different. It's just different. As we saw in Super Region 1, it was pretty. With all the depth in the PSAC. It was a challenge to get out there and to gain a win there. So different dynamic for us, yes. And what happened? The reason the change happened, if people don't know, is the Carolinas Conference added football, and so they put them in Super Region 1. So they had to bump somebody from Super Region 1 to 3. So they bumped us back, the GMAC back to 3, and got rid of the MIAA and so on and so forth. So that's why that happened.
Who you play doesn't really matter if you're in the playoffs. I know you guys will take on all comers. You just want to get there, right, Coach?
I think a number of years ago, I remember reading Mike Krzyzewski. He was early in his tenure at Duke, and he said people were getting on about not winning national titles, believe it or not, before he had won any. And he says, hey, you just got to put yourself in that scenario. You do it enough times, you're going to get success. So, like as you said earlier, though, we're not putting the cart before the horse. We're focused on IUP at this point, and that's all we're worried about. And if we're fortunate enough at the end of the schedule that we get an opportunity to play beyond, we'll take that. Take that challenge with it. But until then, let's worry about the Crimson Hawks and the Paul Tortorella.
Doug Geiser, I can't thank you enough for spending a little time. Gives us an Ashland football fix here in July, but it'll be here before we know it. We wish you all the best and can't wait to cover another season of Eagles football.
Well, I'm excited. I always get excited to hear your radio highlights on Sundays. I'm always blessed when you send those to me, and now with Greg putting those together with the TV copy of that, it's nice to be able to watch in the off season. I can go back and relive the season. And you guys do a great job with it, and we're happy you're a part of our team.
All right, we thank you for joining us here today. As Doug mentioned, you can follow Eagles football all season wall to wall on Fox Sports 1340. And we ask you to like and subscribe to this channel, Ashland University Football Highlights. Now, David Wilson, inviting you to stay tuned for more later on, and go Eagles.